frustration is one of those emotions that doesn't do any good. It may give you motivation to deal with something, but it just kind of makes you tired.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Miss Charlotte. That was the boss.
That was the boss.
And were we being heard?
That would be heard.
The visual radio? Okay. Anyway, so, the whole thing, now I wonder, do they say that stuff intentionally? I hate to, I'm just thinking out loud, because I'm not there, and there's nothing I can do about it. But I actually think those folks will, they were going to talk about it, come back, because there's quite a few assets to save if you get this person eligible. And that's just one thing. That's just one time and one topic that I've had that come up. Another topic, as long as I'm on this rant, is a lot of times when you go to a facility, they will tell you your home is protected. You live in a home, right? Yeah. Is that the only piece of property you have?
No.
We live. Okay. So when you deal with real property and when you're dealing with long-term care, there's a piece of property called your primary residence. And that's, of course, where you live, where you consider home. And then everything other than that is called other real estate. And they're treated differently. Okay. The misnomer comes with the primary residence. They'll tell you it's protected. Don't worry, the place where you live is protected. Now, I have a little objection with the term protected, because it's kind of not that. It's kind of a deferral. We're kind of, the primary residence is like a can we're kicking down the road. We're kind of going to deal with it later. And here's the way it works. Your primary residence is a countable asset. Now, when I talk about countable assets, those are the things you need to qualify. You have to be below a certain number of countable assets. And if you have trouble with the word countable asset, just insert the words available for cost of care asset. So your home, your primary residence, is available for the cost of care. Now, the stuff called other real estate, other real property, if you have that, you are expected to sell that and pay for your care. That enjoys no protection. But the primary residence is what we call an excluded asset. Not exempt, but excluded. Now what that means is this says if it's the primary residence, the other real estate is fair game, okay? But if it's the primary residence, we will exclude it, which means let's just use a nice round number for the radio and say you got a $100,000 primary residence. I'm sure it's more than that, but 100,000 is easy to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So 100,000, and so we're going to take it out of the countable, because it's a countable asset. We're going to take it out of the countable asset column and exclude it by sticking it in the excluded column. So when they're figuring up how much you have, like your 2,000 accountable assets, when they're figuring that up, there's 100,000 that we just took out of the equation that they're not going to use, right? So let's say after we do that, you've had, your assets are down below the amount it needs to be, and you're eligible. So TennCare will start paying the bill, right? I mean, the bill looks like this. All the income goes to the cost of care, and then TennCare pays the balance. So in our example, you got $3,000 worth of income. TennCare is going to pay the other $7,000. And even then, they don't pay that because they pay the TennCare rate. But let's not confuse it anymore necessary. But and they pay the bit. Now, what happens at your death? Okay, at that person's death. Now they exercise the estate recovery program, and they go after whatever's in the person's estate. And so the point I'm making is, remember the house? It's still there. It didn't go anywhere, and you still own it. They just didn't use it against you for eligibility purposes. But it's in your estate, and the estate recovery program says anything in your estate is fair game for us to go, so we can get paid back. You didn't know that when TennCare paid the $7,000 balance for you for the last 3.6 years when you were in the facility, that they wanted paid back, did you? It's like a loan.
Yeah.
I mean, this has a real shock factor. You know what I mean? This has a real sticker shock effect on people when they get somebody who's eligible, and Gertrude's eligible, they're paying, everything's going hunky-dory, and when she passes away, we get a letter in the mail that says, we want paid back everything we paid for you. And it's a lot. I've seen 32-page documents come back with the TennCare release. I mean, a literally itemized list of everything for years, and it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they want paid back, and that shocks people. So maybe you ought to know up front, they're going to want paid back. And they're going to use that house to do that. And that's called estate recovery. So when they tell you the house is protected, that's not what it is. It's excluded. We're kicking the can down the road. They're going to get the house. They're just not going to take it until you pass away. Oh, and by the way, God bless them, if your spouse is still living in the house, God bless them, they will wait until your spouse passes away before they take it. Isn't that big of them?
Hey, that's pretty good of
That's
them.
big of them.
Yeah.
But they're gonna take it. They're gonna take it. I mean, I've seen it a million times. Now, there's a way to stop that, or there's a way to end around that so that they can't do it. And, you know, what's one of the things we do in almost every case, because everybody owns a home for the most part. Every now and then you get somebody that's just renting. It's not an issue, but for the most part, you know, for a lot of people we deal with, that primary residence happens to be the lion's share of the estate in the first, you know, when you look at the totality of it. So there's a way to protect it. There's a way to keep the estate recovery. It's a timing issue. There's a specific time when we do it, when you're married. A little different when you're single, but it can be done. But I mean, they don't tell you that. They say, oh, it's a protected asset, don't worry about that. Now, when it comes time for you to complain about that, you can't, because
No.
it's estate recovery after death.
Yes. Hey, we got a call coming in, Steve.
Oh, great. I didn't hear it ring.
Well, they hung up.
Maybe because we can't hear it ring, it was ringing a long time.
I could see it ringing, but you were talking.
Okay.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Wasn't Charlotte calling, was it?
No, I don't think so. No, she would just come back.
That's
here.
right. No, she runs a tight ship.
She does. She does.
And it's a good ship. I mean, I get a lot of people that come to me, and we do some marketing, but really my marketing is mostly radio. Just 'cause it just works well. And I get a lot of people that say, "Hey, I listen to you on the radio," and I always say, "Which one?" Because you know, before you guys sold the one in Pulaski,
Yeah.
I do one a little bit over there. It's not an hour show like this. It's just the bonus hour on Thursdays, and I come here. A lot of people say, "I listen to you on," they'll either say WLX or WDXE. You know, this station. You know, I know you got 3 stations here, maybe more, but you know, a lot of people say, "I listen to you here." You know, so it's what you guys have done. It's been, I think, last Mother's Day. I'd been doing this over here for 2 years.
Goodness.
It's been that long, hasn't it? It was like in June-ish. Is it?
Well, they hung up again. Somebody's messing with
Maybe
us.
the phones aren't working. I mean,
I don't know, but we'll. But
they had us at the office. We changed carriers, and the phone is still not quite right. I don't get it.
I don't-
How hard can it be to run a phone?
well, apparently
Apparently
it's
harder than we think.
pretty hard.
But anyway, that you know, that's another thing of misinformation, and it seems like I battle this misinformation all the time on a daily basis. So if you know, and that's one of the things why I do the seminars. You know, I've been doing those for years, and that's one of the reasons why. Simple reasons like people come in and say, years ago, people would come in my office and say, "I'd like to do a will." And I say, "Great. I mean, we do wills, but would you like to hear about other options?" And the response I would get overwhelmingly would be like stuff like, "I didn't know there was other. I thought a will was all I could do."
That's the way I was until I met you.
I said, "You ever hear about a trust?" And they said, "I heard the word, but I don't know what it does." And I just thought several things. I just thought that was for rich people. My estate's not big enough to have a trust. I don't know what a trust does. I've heard the term, but I really don't know what it is. And that's not really misinformation. It's just lack of it. And those are better options, which is what got me into the estate planning business in the first place. So that's, you know, years ago, maybe 5 or 6 is when I started doing those seminars, maybe more. Time's really going by.
Yeah,
But I've been doing
quick.
that for a long time, and that's one of the reasons why those started, just to get some word out to people. They do have options. And the problem is you just haven't heard what the options are. And because I often say, how do you make a decision about something? Unless you know what all the options are, and you can pick one, or none. But if you pick none, go ahead, just go ahead.
Good morning, WDXE. You're on the air with us.
This is my first call, so that wasn't me before. One of the things I want to throw out, I taught communication, and I am pretty educated, but one of the things I use that is very difficult for men to do is when I see a doctor or an attorney that I don't know, or anybody in business, I dressed up sort of like Minnie Pearl, and I say, would you explain this to me in language that an 8th grader could understand? And then I even ask sometimes to demonstrate or let me run it back. And I would say in 50% or more times, I did not understand because many times they're talking either in legalese or medicalese. And one of the things might be for Mr. Pierchoski to go to a nursing home and say, I'm getting information for some of my clients. If I ask you this question, can you put it in language that I can tell them? And he might discover they either don't know or they are camouflaging things, because one thing I'm pretty sure
All right, we appreciate your call.
I think, the concept is entirely valid, that talking to people on a level that people can understand. I'm not talking about, maybe not 8th grade, don't want to be insulting to anybody, but I mean, say it in terms that are plain and simple, that are understandable, not the legalese or now sometimes I'll throw out the legal words because those are the things you hear when you're surfing the internet. You see things like countable assets, that's a legal term. Spend down is a legal term. All that stuff, and I just try to explain what those terms mean. And I think that's a grand way to approach folks if you want to get communication. And the reviews I get on my seminar, I think a lot of people say that I accomplished that at the seminar because I just get down to where the rubber meets the road and explain how things work. Because like anything else, it works a certain way. It doesn't have to be described complicated. Even if it's a complicated process, it's understandable. So I think that's a grand idea, but I'm probably not going to go into the nursing home pretending to be somebody just asking, but I probably have ethical issues with that. But the concept of how you get paid more or less, that is a valid concept, and here's a good explanation of that. Sometimes I call it monopoly money or something like that, or insurance money, because you ever go to the insurance company, here's an example. For some reason, when you have insurance, medical insurance, and if you have really good medical insurance, I think I have really good medical insurance, but if you want to go and get a physical, an annual physical, they don't pay for that. They pay for that up to 3 years old in age, but they don't pay for it after that. I mean, you have to ask them sometime. That seems to be the industry normal. And so I go get a physical every year. My doctor's been friends with him for 30 years, and I go get that. And I forget what the bill is, but it's something like, $220. They send me a bill because the insurance doesn't pay it. And I usually call them up and say, I get this bill for $220. It's my insurance doesn't cover it. Give me what do you want me to send you to just null it out? They'll say, okay, that's yeah, we know the insurance doesn't cover it. Send us I don't know, $85 or $120. Something considerably different, right? The non-insurance rate. So now you got this, I call it monopoly money or funny money. What's this $220 when it's instantly reduced to $120 because you don't have insurance? And so Medicaid, now she said Medicare, but that's rehabilitation, that's correct, but what she's really trying to get at is if you're in a long-term facility and you're private pay, so the bill's $10,000 a month, so that's what you gotta pay, what the full bill is. If somebody gets eligible for Medicaid, which is what we do, and of course, TennCare is our Medicaid, right? If we get somebody eligible, and I remember I said your income goes to the cost of care and then they pay the balance. Well, they pay the Medicaid rate, which is something less than the actual bill due. So because of that, they get more money when you private pay. And I'll be the first one to say that I have tons of clients, they get pressured to private pay rather than apply for TennCare. Because when they get TennCare, they get less. Now, when you get TennCare, it's guaranteed, but you get less. Now, I got a little problem with that too, because when a facility accepts Medicare or TennCare patients, they get all the rules that come with it. They get a guaranteed payment, but they get all the rules that come with it. A lot of times they forget some of those rules, especially the ones that apply to them. But now, we see this reduced rate. Here's an actual example of how you will see this reduced rate. Remember, I just got done talking about state recovery and the house. So let's say they got this $100,000 house, okay? And they got a bill that's more than $100,000, right? So they will negotiate with you. I mean, they're not in the business of collecting all these houses and sticking them over here somewhere in the back of the building. They want the money, right? So if they do estate care and put a lien on a house, they have to hire their attorneys. Or the attorneys at TennCare don't do auctions and sell a house. They third party them out to a local organization and they auction the house off, and that's costly to them. Now, if you call them up and say, listen, I'm the heir of this $100,000 house. There's a will that says it goes to me, but you guys came in with your priority claim because you're the state of Tennessee and you get first. Can we talk about me buying this house back? Now, they will negotiate that, and that's when you can buy it back, and because they're only trying to get back what TennCare's out, and TennCare paid the lower rate. So you kind of see where that's going. You're not getting the full bill when you're trying to buy it back. Now it's a reduction. It's not huge, but it's a reduction. Plus, they got a set of bean counters there. They'll sit down and say, they'll say, you can say, hey, it's a $100,000 house. Can I buy it back for $50,000? Well, they'll take that, they'll scratch and sniff, and the bean counters will say, well, you know, if we auction it off, it'll cost this. The legal people have to do the documentation, it costs this. Our payback rate was this. And then they'll come back with a number and say, no, but we'll do it for 68.5 or some number, because they'll do the math. So you can buy it back, and it is at that, when you're paying it back, they can only recover what they're out. So they can't recover the full value of the cost of the facility, but they can recover what they paid the facility, and they're paying a reduced rate. And now that actually, if you can call it a benefit, it's working in your favor to some extent if you're stuck buying this thing back. But they'll negotiate that, and that's something they'll do right off. You don't even ask for that, because they can't get more than they put out, and they only put out a reduced amount. So that's where we can see it in real time that that's actually happened. So it's true, if you private pay, you're not on the 10 care patient, you will pay more than, let me put it this way, the more money will go to the facility than if you're on the 10 care thing, they'll get less. It's not you paying it. I mean, you are paying private pay, but you're not paying it when you're eligible. But the amount is something different. And so, do they? She was sort of indicated or was leaning toward the fact that they misrepresent that and get you to private pay. I don't know. I'm not going to go as far as to say they do something intentionally wrong. I think most of the time they just don't understand how it works. I think, like take it for example. Let's say you go in there and you've got some money. We'll use you, Lonnie. You are loaded, right?
Oh, yes.
But let's say you're in the nursing home. I'll pick on you. You're in the nursing home and you decide, you know what, this is pretty expensive. I better apply for 10 care. Because the statute says you're supposed to shift the burden to the third-party state, because that's what the program's for. So you get the 16-page application. You fill out. Do you have a home? Yeah, I do. What's it worth? They want the tax card value for worth, and then they ask how much money you got in the bank, and you put down got a few thousand in the bank, and how much in a brokerage account or CDs. You list all this stuff, and this is what happens with in the facility. They'll come to you and say, "We'll help you fill out the application, Mr. Box." And so they'll ask you these questions, and they'll write it down. How much money you got in the bank? Well, I got $25,000 in the bank. And they would write that down. And then they say, how much? Do you have any CDs or any other kind of account? Yes, I got some stuff that I'm kind of saving up that I want to pass on to my kids someday. So they say, it's very intrusive, and they write all down that you own. Okay. Then they'll say, well, we'll send this application in for you, and by golly, we'll do it for no cost. And they do, and they send it in. But from my standpoint, I sit there and I'm thinking to myself, it's not going to take a PhD to know that you're going to be denied for being over-resourced, because they put all that stuff on the application. The big difference is, I know what they do with the answers to the questions. It's easy to answer the questions. What's hard is to know what they do with the answer. That's where the eligibility lies. And so it's like, this is doomed to failure from before you even put the stamp and mailed it in or put it in the fax machine. And I've got a case going just like that. People have hired me, and the facility has already filed an application for it. And it's doomed to fail. And they called me and said, or they sent me an email and said, I understand you're working with these folks. We've already filed an application. What are you planning on doing? I said, first thing I'm going to do is pull your application, because it's doomed to failure. It's an absolute legal assurity that they will deny it. An absolute assurity. There's no, well, they might, no, there's none. There's zero possibility. So, and the problem with that is if they deny it, I file a second application, which I can do, there's some disadvantages in not having the original application. The second, there's some things we don't get. So I want to pull it and involuntarily. So if I do file a second application, it's really the first application, because the first one never got prosecuted, never went through. And so we're going to manipulate the assets that this person has, make them non-countable, or turn them into a non-countable stream of income. Or, there's got a whole bag of tricks that we can do as far as doing this. Now, this bag of tricks is maybe not the best description, because it's the things available to us under the 10 Care Act that we can do with property. It's called the spend down. The spend down has nothing to do with spending. It has everything to do with recategorizing it. And so we recategorize the property. Then when we've changed it all so that when you actually count up the countable assets, they're where they need to be. The income's either below the cap or above the cap with the QIT, and we are eligible. And I won't send that application in until the person is 200% eligible, and then we send it in. Okay, and so I kind of lost my point is what I was saying all that for. But anyway, I love to talk about it, I guess, and I just kind of. But that's the process, because like I said, they'll fill it all out. but when with the information they put on it, it's not, your eligibility is not ripe yet, and you're not gonna get it. And now they've wasted a lot of time, because it takes 3 months for them, if they approve or deny, it takes about 3 months, and you get a denial. And so, now you send it in again, but now you're held responsible for that 3 months because you got a denial. What we can do is if you turn an application in, like let's say we put one in today, the application, and I'm satisfied we're approved. I mean, we're eligible. We turned it in today, October the 17th. Somebody's gonna pick it up and start looking at it, well, notwithstanding the holidays. Somebody's gonna pick it up about a month from now and start looking at it. And we'll know when that happens, because they'll make an information request about something, you know, and like they always do. But it's going to be like January or February before they actually come back with the approval. And here's the theory: when they come back with the approval, they will go back and pay the facility. So let me back up a little bit. When we file the application today, we don't have to pay that $10,000. We just have to pay the patient liability, which is the income, which is in the case we talked about was our $3,000, right? That's all we have to pay going forward. Now, according to the facility, they get a little anxious because we're racking up a bill. But we're not, by law, we don't have to pay it. Because once we file the application, the law says you are to be treated as if you have, they must treat you as if you have already been approved. And that's what's coming, because 3 months later, when they finally say, yeah, we approve you, you're eligible. Well, doesn't that mean I was eligible the day I filed the application? So what they're doing is they're saying, yeah, you were eligible the day you filed the application. We just now got around to looking at it after 3 months. And so you can't be penalized for that. So they will go back to the day I filed the application and pay the facility for all that time in between, because we were eligible when we filed. We're not to be held responsible for the delay in the system, because it's government run, right? And so that's how it works. But if you file the application and get denied, and 3 months have gone by, we can file a second one, but now we're on the hook for the bill we racked in that first 3 months that the application failed, because you don't get that special status of being treated as if you've already been approved, because once you got denied, then once you were denied for eligibility, you were ineligible the day you filed the application. Just like I was eligible the day I filed it, you were ineligible the day you filed an ineligible application. So they say, we're not going back and pay that. That's on you, you're private paying. Now you find yourself with 3 or 4 months of $10,000 bill, you're pushing a $50,000 unpaid balance with the facility, okay? That's the problem with doing it that way. It can be problematic. And then the matter of practical fact is, people go to visit the person in the nursing home. Before they get to the rooms, they hijack you and pull you off in a room and say, hey, you guys have this $40,000 balance, how's it going to be paid? Kind of destroys the visit process. They're constantly hounding. I get the fact that they want paid. I don't, you know, and they're entitled to be paid. And in that situation, they are. You know what I mean? But it's when that filing the application, like in this case, we're going to lose a couple of months because of we have to file the new one. The old one's no good. But my goal is just to pull this one and file the new one and minimize that time as much as possible. But so you know. I think it's not asking too much that the facilities that have an administration department, and part of that administration department is the people that help with TennCare applicants. I don't think it's asking too much that they don't understand what they're supposed to do.
It's true.
And I can't speak like for everybody, but some of the ones I talk to just don't. And sometimes I try to explain it, but I don't get very far. They're just kind of like, you know, we're not listening to you. I mean, that's just, you know, this is what I've been told to do, and that's what I'm gonna do. And so I don't.
It doesn't make any difference that you studied the law and you know the law, but they're not going to listen to you.
Well, I mean, one thing about the law is it's an expectation. I mean, when I go into this process, I need to have an expectation of how things are going to work, and that's what that is. I mean, the law. It's kind of like being on the road. You know, my wife does strange things when she drives, and there are things that a lot of people do because it's just something that people do. But you know, we have a thing called the motor vehicle code. Okay, motor vehicle code says you put your turn signal on when you're making a turn, or you do a hand signal. You have to indicate. So, why do we put a turn signal on? Let's just think about it. Let's forget the hand signals. But why do we signal when we're making a turn?
So the people will know that you're turning.
It gives the other drivers an expectation of what your actions are going to be. Right? When you see stop signs, a four-way stop. As you're coming up on a four-way stop and you see cars on the other 3 roads, what is your expectation of what's going to happen when you get there? That they're all going to stop, right? I mean, not because those are the rules of the road. And if the other drivers have an expectation of what the other drivers are going to do, theoretically, we wouldn't have any wrecks or crashes, right? But, so, one thing I hope she's not listening. One thing my wife does, and we're driving, and she's driving, and there's a car in front of us. And the car in front of us puts on the turn signal to go left. My wife will put on her left-hand turn signal, and I say, why are you putting on your turn signal? You're not turning left. She's, I'm letting the people behind me know that the car in front of me is turning left. And I think, what? She goes, and she has been doing that like all her life. I said, what you're doing is you're signaling that you're going to turn when your intention is not to turn. Now, I don't complain about it anymore because it's, but I mean, I'm using that as an example, okay? You're sending a wrong signal out there. So when, and so the people don't, and then when you don't turn, it's like, well, they were signaling, I thought they were turning. She says, well, everybody does that. Maybe they do. I don't know. I never did that. I never heard of it before.
I know people that have done it before, but I don't do that.
And I get they're being magnanimous, trying to show people behind them, but I don't know that that's exactly what gets conveyed. I don't see how, if I was the person behind it, I would think the obvious, the car in front of me was turn left, and then they don't. Maybe when I saw the car in front of them turn left and this went straight, maybe I'd figure out that's what they're doing. But I mean, I disagree with it. I don't think you should intentionally indicate you're going to do something that you're clearly not planning on doing, because it could mess somebody up.
You could.
Just like when you get somewhere and somebody doesn't use the turn signal, then they turn. You're thinking, well, if I'd have known that, I could have gone.
They were the turn signals was optional on that model there.
You know, not to get sidetracked, but years ago, I knew somebody, and they never used turn signal. And I asked them one time, so why the hell, why don't you put your turn signal on? They said, I don't want anybody to know my business. It's like, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Okay, then stay home and keep it a secret, but you can't do that on the road. No. Good gosh. Anyway, my point is, when we have these rules in TennCare, you know, the application rules and stuff like that, there's a level, you know, if I do things, there's a level of expectation that they're going to honor what I do because it's in the rule, right? And when the facilities come up with these things that they tell people that have nothing to do with it, we have to overcome that. And it's hard sometimes. Yeah. It's hard sometimes. It's hard. Sometimes people just say, well, if the facility says that, that's what I'm going to go with. I'm not going to go with what you say. Okay. And unfortunately, it's a bad economic position for them, or a worse economic position. But it is what it is. But we get a ton of people that hire us on that TennCare eligibility stuff. And like I said, I'm told by the Board of Professional Responsibility or the laws of ethics and professionalism that I'm bound by, that I am not allowed to guarantee a result. You know, I can't, back when I did criminal law, I could say, yeah, I'll get a not guilty for you. I'm not allowed to guarantee a result. But I'm allowed to talk about my history, you know, and I like to say I've never failed to get anybody eligible yet. If Jeff were here, he would remember not too long ago, I talked about a case that was hanging out there for 1 year and 3 months. And nobody thought this person was going to be eligible. They said, something's got to be wrong. You got to be doing something wrong, Mr. Stan, because nothing takes this long. After 1 year and 3 months, they approved and gave me everything I wanted, went all the way back 15 months earlier and started paying the facility from the day of application. So that was a tough one, but we got there. We got them eligible. Okay, so I've never failed yet to get somebody eligible. So, and this case notwithstanding, sometimes if I deal with something like that where an application's already been filed or somebody did a do-it-yourself application, I may end up with a less ideal result than if I'd have done it from the beginning, but we'll get a good result, or a better result, that's for sure. But like in this case, we've lost this couple of months. I think the application was filed in August, so maybe we're going to end up with a month and a half of loss that we wouldn't have had if we could have done it up front. But so we'll mitigate it, but ideally, we wouldn't have that loss. So it's a less ideal solution, but it's still a pretty good one. Because these people have a fair amount of assets they want to protect. Yeah. So anyway, I get a few more minutes. Let's see, what's the clock say? No, just a few. So maybe if you got a quick question, you can call in to 766-9393. But
hey, mention the show that's going on.
Oh yeah. I was going to get to that, and I don't want to get too late in the time. At the theater, of course, my office is in the square in Pulaski, right on the southeast corner. But right next to me is the Star Theater, STAAR. There's 2 A's in that because it stands for Southern Tennessee Area Arts Repertory. Anyway, it goes by Star Theater, and the website's startheater.org. And we have a show tonight. Well, it's not us doing it. It's a organization that goes around and does at other places. And it's called the 1977, or the 77 Experience. And what they're gonna do is it's a band, and they're gonna highlight all the songs from 1977, which is cool, you know, I mean, I graduated in 1973, but I remember 1977. Like, I think we talked before about it being the year Elvis passed away.
Yep.
You know, so I remember 1977. I was in Rehoboth Beach on a vacation when that happened. I remember. But there's a lot of good songs. I know one of the ones I saw on the list was a Kiss song, and we just, you know, the Ace, the actor, the drummer just passed away.
Yep.
Either today or yesterday.
Yesterday.
And I mean, it's not on there because of that, but it was on there because it was a 77 show.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I don't usually stick around late on Fridays, but I'm gonna stick around today and get caught up on stuff and then just hang out, because I'm right next door. The show's at 7 o'clock. Gosh, I think I gave Jeff a flyer, but I can't remember the ticket price, but whatever. You can find out if you go to startheater.org. And the theater has an arrangement with a local brewery, and we're offering adult beverages we have them laid out. There must be 8 or 9 different versions of their beer. I mean, they have cute little names, like one's called Son of a Peach, or something like, you know, like that. And there's different flavors. The name escapes me, but I think it's on the flyer. But it'll be a fun thing. I'm looking forward to it, because, you know, I like 60s and 70s music from the old days a lot. And there were, you know, 77. The disco thing was kind of winding down. That was a little earlier in the 70s, and disco was a big thing. But there's a lot of songs from then. When you hear them, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that one. You know, so it'll be fun. So it's a good band. It'll sound good. It's not like our community theater people doing it. Not that they don't do a good job.
Yeah.
They do a great job, but they are community theater. So this is a group that does this for a living. You know, I mean, we actually have to pay them to come, and so. You should call, you know, go to startheater.org, and the 77 Experience will be right there. There'll be some verbiage about it. It's tonight, and it's only one night, but it's at Star Theater right on the square in Pulaski at 7 o'clock. It's about a 2-hour show, I think, 7 to 9, like typical. And it'll be fun. I mean, you know, we got a concession stand and all that, and I imagine there'll be a lot of people on their feet, jiving, singing. I mean, I'm sure they'll encourage you to sing along.
Oh, sure.
There's no problem with that. Reminds me, back in 2014, I went up to Nashville to see Paul McCartney. Of course, I'm a Beatles fan. I'm a child of the 60s, and I was there for that concert, and a buddy of mine went with me, and we were driving home, and we were like completely hoarse. I mean, our voices were just gone. We were back in the 60s. I was jumping up and down, screaming, singing the songs, but every single one. And that'll be fun. It'll be a fun night. I think it'll be a fun night.
Yeah.
Jeff said he and Teresa might enjoy that. You know, go date night, bring it over. You know,
Sure.
come early and maybe go out to eat somewhere, or eat out here and then come early. But the show's going to start at 7, pretty much. So it'll be a fun thing. We like to do fun things at the theater. So you could call my office if you need more information, because my office is quasi box office. Most things are online, but sometimes people have trouble getting the tickets online, and so they call my office. So let me give the number, because if you want to talk to me about, if you want to sign up for my seminar coming up, you can sign up, or you can call and sign up, or you can go to the website and sign up. There's a whole bunch of ways. But or if you want to talk to me about anything that I talk about on this show, or any other shows you hear me, or just estate planning in general. It doesn't even have to be what we talked about today. Give me a call, Pierchoski Estate Law, Pierchoski Elder Law, at 931-363-7222, 931-363-7222. I say that because for the gentleman that said I say my phone number too fast, and I only say it once. So there I said it twice, and I slowed it down.
And well, they say you got to say it 3 times for them to remember.
931-363-7222. Or you can go to my website, which is Estate Plan Stan. That's ESTATE planstan.com, and it takes you right to PierchoskiEstateLaw.com. You don't have to spell my last name. And you can see, you can sign up for stuff there, you know. Or you can just call that number if you want to call about the theater, because we're in the building right next door. And so you can, if you want to call them, purchase the tickets, or want to know how to purchase a ticket, I think you go to startheater.org, and on there is a way to click to buy tickets, and just follow the links. If you have any trouble calling, Alex or Tammy or Courtney will help you out with that. So, but it'll be fun. I'm kind of looking forward to it. So I put this right to the end of the. Right to the end. If you want to talk to me about anything, you know how to get a hold of me. Give me a holler, and we'll talk about some of this stuff. If you got somebody headed for long-term care, or you just want to do some trust planning, or you want to do the asset protection trust, which protects all your assets from long-term care way in advance.
Yes.
that's a great way to go. So
And of course, Jeff will be back with you next week.
he's on vacation. Where do we get a job where we get vacation? I want to know.
You have to go into real estate, I guess.
I guess.
But
So
he'll be back, and appreciate everybody listening. Remember, if you want to know about Will's Trust in the nursing home, Stan Pierchoski is the man to talk to. He has got the knowledge, and he knows exactly the route to send you on. So
that's the plan.
that's the plan. All right, it is straight up 9 o'clock.
He said nothing on his way into the courthouse.
Wait.
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, where John Bolton surrendered ahead of a hearing the day after being indicted. The former Trump National Security Advisor turned outspoken Trump.
Oh, I couldn't happen to a worse, a better deserving guy, huh?
Charges of not only keeping top secret info, but sharing it with family members.
Oh, I'm good.